it seems naturally the ministry here has been more focused on the less fortunate. Um, how did that start? Like, how did that become kind of the
Sure.
calling of you and
Yeah.
this parish?
So Matthew 25 has always been a big part of my focus. When the Lord said, "I was hungry, I was thirsty, I was naked, I was a stranger, I was sick, I was in prison. And when you do it to the least of these, my brethren, you did it to me."
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember growing up, just like my teens, early on in my adult years, just kind of always having that in my heart. I went through my stage of rebellion. Wasn't at some point I wasn't really close to the church and wasn't doing the worst things in the world, but I knew I wasn't living with God. And service and ministry, specifically to the homeless, was a big part of, planting a seed in my heart that there's something bigger.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I never question whether God exists or not. I always believe in God, but you know, my relationship, who He is to me, who I am to Him, that wasn't really on my heart always. And so, starting to serve those who are in need, saw things in a different way. And then, eventually, as I started getting closer and closer to church, closer to God, and starting to serve Sunday school, and then ministry in general just was something, so beautiful. And I saw my relationship with God start to blossom,
Mm-hmm.
not in a prideful way, but I just felt God's presence, and really, His love really touched my heart. And so, um, through that, even when eventually to when I was called a priest, homeless ministry was something that I always wanted to be a part of. So I was ordained at St. Mina initially in Riverside, and St. Mina has a very interesting location. It's beautiful. It's kind of on a high hill
Mm-hmm.
in the Riverside County, or San Bernardino. It's like right on the border, but it doesn't really. If you're, people on the street don't really have access to that church. It's almost like set up to be like a monastery kind of.
Yeah, yeah.
So people have to drive up there. It's beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful churches, and location wise, just so beautiful. But I felt like I wanted to connect somehow to the homeless, and so by God's grace, some people were visiting, some Americans that were visiting from a Melkite Catholic church, which are like Greek Orthodox,
Mm-hmm.
but under the Catholic tradition, so almost exactly like the Greek Orthodox liturgy, everything. Even they make the sign of the cross different than the Latins. Very interesting. So they visited our church and they told me about the homeless ministry. And even in my first couple of years, I said, "Oh gosh, I would love to, be a part of that." So after a few months of them inviting me, I took that step and initiative to go and meet the priest there. We became very good friends, and we started ministering, and it opened the door for so many people to have an opportunity to serve. And so our church partnered up, and we would come and I think we served 3 out of 4 Thursdays a month or something like that. At least 2
Mm-hmm.
out of 4 Thursdays a month. A lot of people.
This is all in Riverside.
All
still?
in Riverside.
Mm-hmm.
So when God called us out of Riverside, my wife was accepted to a fellowship program out USC in LA. So we had to move. And so when God called us out from there, there was a need at St. George in Bellflower. And again, it's a very, very ethnic, culturally Egyptian Coptic church,
Mm-hmm.
which is beautiful. And, I had a chance to meet a lot of beautiful people and serve there for a while. But again, I wanted the connection to the homeless. And so I looked for other ministries and came across a ministry in Long Beach, a Protestant ministry. They were serving the homeless. And so, again, that I found that to connect to a ministry that's already up and running, much easier than to try to start everything from scratch.
Yeah.
Which is good because we learned a lot, but also we took what we learned and then tailored it to the way we would do ministry. And so we kind of got the best of both worlds, where we can give from our perspective how we approach people, how we talk to people, how we minister to people, yet at the same time learn from other ministries that were, so that gave birth to our church by God's grace. And there's a whole miraculous story of how he came back, but I can share that.
Right. But you didn't plan on it. Like I think Ambasarabian kind of proposed.
So that's what I need to hear in order to tell you the story.
Yeah.
So
Actually, I want to hear it.
So
it's a good story.
interesting that you mentioned Fadi Shahata.
Yeah.
So Fadi Shahata, he gave a talk on I don't remember. It was one of the things that exactly, it was a leadership summit, and so that talk inspired me so much that at the end of the talk I said, God, I really want to do something big for you. I want to do something to really glorify your name. I don't know what it is. And it was literally probably October 8th of 2016 or October 7th, something like that. And so soon after, Ambasarabian approached me, October 11th, 2018, Sayyidina approached me and said, we want to start a ministry to serve those who are in need and be able to share with them our church. Most churches focus on the Coptic people that are, that have emigrated from Egypt, or some of the American Coptic churches, people that grew up Coptic but want more English, or intermarried, and some people that have converted. But it's different than a church to really serve the community around, in addition to serving the people that are here.
Yeah.
And he gave me such a beautiful example. I really loved what he said. He said, we want to do what Christ did with the man born blind. He healed him, and then he preached to him, right? So we're going to offer healing. We're going to offer service. We're going to offer food. We're going to offer help, a helping hand, an ear to listen to people that are going through issues, helping people to get into rehabs, shelters, things like that. That's the healing part. And when we're asked why are we doing this, then we can share. We're not shoving anything down anybody's throat. We're not forcing anyone to listen to what we're saying. And I really love that, because it starts with love. Somebody will much rather listen to you when they know you first loved them, rather than you telling them, what is right and what's wrong, and then telling them, oh yes, I love you, by the way. When they feel that you love them first and serve them, no matter what, even if they don't want to hear, we're going to still serve you. Even if they don't want to know why we're doing this, we're going to still show you love and serve you. It makes such a big difference.